Hi, good morning, teachers. I decided to join the conversation about homework and about homework in this day and age with coronavirus and what to do for kids when they're out of school. I know there's been tons of conversation about this on Twitter and on Facebook, and I've been pretty impressed with the kinds of things I see people posting in terms of A, giving content for homework, and B, conversations about what homework should look like given that kids will be out of school for so long. I think it's important to keep in mind that there's a shifting landscape, that nothing feels certain, and that we're all scared. Yesterday, I was talking by Zoom to a student not of mine, but of a friend of mine. I'm a literacy staff developer. And she was acting normal. We were talking about her writing, and then all of a sudden, she had to go. And she told her mom that all of a sudden, everything is different. And I think kids feel it just like we feel it. And that's why I wanted to join this conversation about what I'm going to be calling learning work, because I think the word homework is not the word that we're looking for. Homework implies that kids, we have a history with that word, that kids do work in school and then they come home and they reinforce those skills in home, and that's not what they're doing. So I'm going to change the term to learning work when I talk about it, or learning at home. And I'm going to give you a few things to think about that you might want to think about with your districts. I think it's 6 questions to think about, and a couple of tips that you can take and use as you're planning for this learning work at home and dealing with this uncharted territory that we all see ourselves in. The first one, number 1, is a why question, and it's, why are we assigning work at all? What's the purpose of it? I think when we thought it was going to be 2 weeks out and it was going to be 10 lessons, there might have been one purpose, like trying to catch a kid up who's missed a day of school or 2 days of school. But now that we know that kids are going to be out for a much longer time, what's the purpose of us giving this learning work at home? It may also be to reinforce some of the skills that they learned, but I think the predictable problem is that we think that we can give more, go further and further in the curriculum without us, or we hope that we can, and I'm not sure that we can. So I spoke to a child yesterday who spent a really long time on her writing work. That's mostly what I do, is writing work in schools. And what she was telling me is she was asked to write a research report. She wasn't sure how to do some of those skills. I don't at all blame her teacher. I probably would have assigned the same thing. But I think we want to give homework that serves a real purpose and that feels doable for kids. Number 1 is, why are we giving learning work at all when kids are home at this point? And that's probably the most important question. And it doesn't have to be a long conversation. Everything's time sensitive right now, but maybe a conversation for 10 minutes about why we're doing this at all, before we start talking about how to set up learning platforms, how to give kids Chromebooks, how to give kids hotspots and internet access. Number 2 is, how will this learning meet kids' needs right now at this point in their lives? And I think that's such an important question. Kids have so many needs right now. They're as lonely and as scared as we are. Many of them are taking on many more responsibilities at home. And what are their needs right now, and how can we design homework around those needs? And I think those needs are very different now than they were just weeks earlier. I know mine are. Number 3 is kind of the same as number 2. I guess it's a little bit different way of looking at it, which is, what struggles are kids going through right now, and how can these struggles inform our thinking around homework, around giving homework, or learning work, as I'm calling it. Number 4 is, how can we help students learn something that they're interested in? Many videos I've seen, including a really great one by Gravity Goldberg recently, talked about the opportunities that this situation presents for us. And it may well be that one opportunity that kids have is to be able to study something that they're interested in, learn magic tricks, ask questions about animals, and how are we as teachers, how do we see ourselves being a part of that? Could that be a big part of what we assign in homework? Number 5 is how can we help kids feel connected and not isolated from each other? And this is a big one. And this is one of those questions that's much easier if kids have access to the internet through Zoom and so forth. Not only connected to us as teachers, but connected to their classmates. I don't have the answer for that. I just know that in my own heart and head, I'm feeling very much like I need to feel connected to my own children that I'm not with right now. They're not young children, they're on their own, and to family members. And I'm wondering if we could quickly consider how that might be a part of what we do. And number 6, the last one, is how can we find and use the resources that are already out there for online? So one of the things that has totally shocked me is the number of people that have come out to make videos and put things out for kids, directly for kids, that I think are fantastic and that I would not only use with my own children, I have been doing them myself. So I'm sure there's many. I'm sure there'll be a clearinghouse of these things if there aren't already, but I love the Leah Mermelstein videos on Facebook Live. I love the Amy Ludwig Vanderwater Lesson a Day. I think they come out in the afternoon from the Poem Farm. I see Ralph Fletcher's putting something out. I'm only mentioning writing because that's what I'm focusing on. Mo Willems has something every day. Kylene Beers does something for teachers. And so how can we find what resources are already out there and use those? It may be that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and it may be that we decide that these resources really do meet the needs of our kids, or really do answer the question, why are we assigning this for us? So it may be that we don't have to create everything from scratch. Oh, and I think Teachers College is doing something this afternoon too. I'm not sure what that is, but I think it is related to how to help kids continue to do their learning work at home. So I guess a few tips are that homework should feel easy and doable. And sometimes in the name of rigor, or the name of trying to catch kids up, or the name of fear, we're going to, especially if kids are behind, we're going to give them more to do. We forget that. It's easy to forget it because our hearts are in the right place and we don't want them to come back to school being behind. But homework right now should feel like that downhill bike ride. Should feel like the bunny hill. It should feel something that's easy for kids and doable. And then number 2, I think homework should feel engaging. So we can find things that are easy and doable, but they don't feel engaging for kids. And we should be asking ourselves, can we create homework that's engaging? And when we're looking at these videos and things that people are putting out online, do we think this work is engaging for kids? Do we think it can be something that's almost soothing and that takes them away from the problems of the day? And number 3 is, I think, is it time efficient or time sensitive? And this is a whole other idea, but I know that most schools are releasing homework or learning work on the day that they want students to do it. And one of the things we might consider is releasing learning work at the beginning of the week, letting kids know what it is, and having them decide how much they're going to do each day. I know that's a pretty controversial thing, but I think as kids take on more responsibilities, parents aren't always there. It's easier on certain days than others for kids to get to work. And one of the things we might think about is how to offer them that option. So those are ideas for you to think about as you plan with your school in the months ahead. Just joining the conversation with you. I don't have, and I'm not pretending to have, tons of answers. I do have a few questions, and I do have a few ideas that I hope are helpful for you. Okay, so wash your hands and be well.